Time to talk about blind people. So, I guess I should start with why I want to talk about blind people stuff this week specifically. Because I've been meaning to since I started my podcast channel, but haven't bothered with it yet. I was waiting for a time that made more sense where me and my brother and maybe even my uncle, who also has RP, could get together and do something. Just kind of general stuff. But this week, last couple weeks actually, 3 weeks? I don't know. My uncle Michael has been talking to me about some stuff that's been going on with him trying to get a job and him being basically treated in a way that makes us sure that they are trying to force him out of working at this job he just applied to. So, a few weeks ago, my Uncle Michael calls me up and he's really excited because he hasn't had a legitimate houred job in a long time. I don't want to say exactly, maybe 6 months to a year, because there was a big fiasco with one of the last jobs he had where they treat him wrong for being blind there too. So he calls me and he's telling me about this new job. He's really excited. He's going to get something like 15, 16 an hour to work at this. Well, I won't say what it is, but kind of not a retail, not quite a manufacturer, a producer of food sort of business, which is cool. I still think he deserves way more than that anyway, because he's got years and years of management experience with manufacturing. But okay. And then maybe about a week later, he calls me up and he tells me that he has been sent home and he needed help to get a test done that the business, after already going through a application process, after already going through interview, after already deciding they're going to hire him, forcing him to go pay for a doctor's visit to check off some list to say he's allowed to work there with no reimbursement, which happened to be a decent amount of money, which I don't mind helping at all, because if I ever had to ask somebody to help me for something that was because of my RP and they said no, then I can't let that happen to somebody else if I know how bad it would be if it happened to me. So I didn't mind at all, but it really pissed me off, because there's no reason they should have shoved him out and basically told him, this is your problem, now go spend a bunch of money you don't have because you just got this job to prove to us that you can work here, instead of just checking within the facilities. He had already told them over and over and over and over again that he had retinitis pigmentosa, he's legally blind, and they waited till he was on the floor, didn't tell his supervisor, line lead, whatever type of position it was, and then decided to treat him like this. And then it gets worse, because he goes and he has the checks done. The doctor says you should be able to do this work that they're talking about. It's fine. He sends all the paperwork back to that company, and they send him, the doctor, a new fax letter, whatever, that says they don't accept those tests and that they need to know. And this is the funny, well, it's really up, but it's funny. The decimals, whatever it is, decibels that it would take for him to be able to see in a room, have 100% vision is the words they used, which I don't know if these people have never heard of what being legally blind is, but there's no such thing as 100% vision if you're legally blind. That's just it doesn't make sense. On top of that, decibels or decimal, hearing. That's for sound. Like, I don't even know what the hell kind of confusion that would be that would lead to someone to think that. I may have been more angry than even he was, because I'm sure he was not happy, but I was pissed. Because I can't believe that anybody would treat somebody like this. In fact, today I got an update just to be sure. He was told by the HR that, well, we're gonna go ahead and let you go because you've racked up all these points, which are there because first he was sent home for being legally blind. They didn't trust him, and then he got corona, which sometimes you do. And so he was out for that unless they want him coming in and sneezing on all the products that might go out to people. I don't understand that either. And he had to do what I had advised and what he was thinking about doing, which is just like, okay, y'all want a number to get me back to 100% vision or whatever that doesn't exist. What's the number you guys are going to pay me to settle this out of court? And then they decide to come back with, oh no, I was misinformed. Those points don't count because our nurse is the one that sent you home. And that's the way when you have RP, when you're legally blind, that's how you have to treat the people across the table just to survive, just to stay. And even then, sometimes you don't want to pull that sort of situation out because what are you going to do after that? You still have to work for these people and they hate you because management or HR, they hate anyone that can actually argue with them and prove their point. Anybody that can argue and win, they hate you. So, what are you supposed to do? Just keep accepting the terrible situation you're in? It's ridiculous. So, this has been, just stuck in my head because I've been dealing with things at my own job since I got there, for the last 4+ years. Again, I won't say where I work, but it's a retail body shop, basically. A big one, like a countrywide one that sells online. But I've had, I've had line leads just try to flat out get rid of me when I first got there because they didn't want to bother teaching me, which I didn't see them do that to anybody else, but they did it to me. I've had line leads blame me for mistakes happening on cars at the end of the week without ever showing me any of the vehicles. And also changing the person I'm working with every single day. So there's no consistency, and then they come back to me and they say, well, you were doing really good, and then you weren't, and then you keep going all over the place. It's not possibly the people you're sticking me with. And while I was doing this prep work for basically cosmetic, fixing the car before you paint it again, on top of them doing that, which upset me to the point where I was just, I was worried it was just I couldn't do it because of my vision, even though, I totally could. But I was so anxious, I couldn't formulate an argument against them. I'd thought of it a couple hours later. Why didn't you show me any of these cars? Why are you using me like a scapegoat at the end of the week after all these cars are through? So I can't even argue. I was just an easy person to blame. On top of the fact they were already forcing me to work in a dark area when they knew I'm night blind, pretty much. Without good lighting, without replacing the lights that are just supposed to be there, not even giving me a little bit of extra light to make it easier, but just normal shop lights. I've had that happen. I've had one line lead come up to me and just ask me, hey, what colors do you have problems with? And they had recently taken me out of mixing, which is making colors for paint for vehicles, which I could totally do. I had done it like 3 or 4 different times for months on end, each different time. And they had recently pulled me out of rotation when I was trying to move up to the next position, and that was part of being in that position. And then later I find out that like one of them came up to me and just asked me like, "What colors can you not see?" And I was like, "What the are you talking about?" Like, and I was I was told that someone, one of the line leads, had told everyone that I was colorblind. Never talked to me. I wasn't colorblind. I'm not colorblind. I'm probably not as color sensitive as like people with totally normal eyesight, but I'm definitely not colorblind. Not even close. And I had to find that out through this one line lead. She wouldn't tell me who told her. She said, "Oh well, I can't say who that is, but okay, well we'll put you back in the rotation. We don't worry about it." Okay, so that's another strike. And these are different line leads at different points in time, and it's just like part of the process in this company. I guess for anybody. I know my brother, I'm sure, has plenty of stories very similar to these. So not too long ago, I had to ask for an accommodation, um, which is which was basically, can I come in later when the sun is up? Because I shouldn't be driving at night anymore. It's just not great. I already shouldn't have been, but I just was because I need money. So, um, but okay. So I asked them. They talked to HR. HR sends me information that is wrong. They basically, I was supposed to go through their some sort of insurance company, basically, that handles things like that, like they approve whatever, and then they send it back to the company and they agree or disagree or whatever. So they give me the wrong info, which set me back some time because I had to screw up that order of events that they told me to do to find out it was wrong. And then this insurance company, their consult, had to give me tell me what the correct version was, which turns out was wrong also. Basically sent me back to HR. HR was like, "Oh, well, okay, we'll do it this way then. Just go to a doctor and get them to give you the paperwork." I was like, "Okay, whatever." They told me like kind of what the paperwork was, but they didn't give me like an exact statement of what it is. So I just did what HR said. I emailed my I go to the Retina Foundation in Dallas. Like I've been going. It's been a minute now, but back when I was doing this, I had been every 6 months for like a year, 2 years. That would be stupid. Every 6 months for for 1 year. And I thought I could just get them to sign me a letter or a paper or whatever. I tell them exactly I'm trying to get an accommodation at work, and they first I found out, well, we're not like physician doctors, like we're study doctors basically. So they'll tell me what's going on and they're gonna follow me, but they're not like, they're not my optometrist or ophthalmologist. They wouldn't count as that. Okay, so I have to find a new person for this. I find a new person, get an appointment that takes however many more weeks, I can't recall. This all builds up to like 4 or 5 months extra that I shouldn't have been driving at night, but because I kept getting the wrong info. So I go to the doctor, I get checked out, and I tell her about it, but she tells me I don't know what I'm supposed to give you. Like I'll write you a letter. And she writes this letter, and she doesn't know what the paperwork is. She just knows, like, that she can, like, kind of write me a letter for the company. The company, I give it to them, and they're like, "Nope, this isn't it." So I call up their consult again. It's like the third fucking engagement, or fourth. I can't even keep them in order all the way. And so they say, "No, okay, we're supposed to send you the paperwork. You take it to your doctor. You send it back to your HR, they send it to us, and then we go through the process and come back. This bull. That took a whole lot longer too, because this whole time I'm trying to get set up with the DARS program for Texas, which is TWC, like the Texas workforce. It's basically a protection for useless ass blind people like me and my relatives, because we literally need, I guess, the government to step in and say, like, you can't fire us discriminately. So I finally get all the paperwork done, and I'm just waiting. I'm just gonna wait until they tell me, okay, you're good. You can come in at 7:30, which is what I asked for. It was my best guess at, like, when's the sun gonna be up. I land on 7:30. That's not even good, to be honest with you. Not this time of year. That's too early too. But anyway, so after a little while, I'm like, I haven't heard anything. I'm just gonna call and see what's going on, so I can kind of gauge, like, how much longer I gotta keep doing this. Shouldn't be doing it anyway. If you told me to do it now, I would tell you to fuck off. Like, it's ridiculous. I was doing that for so long, when I really shouldn't have been. I made it fine, but I was so anxious all the time, because I knew, basically what happened was I started to get cataracts, and if there was a car on the other side of the road, that would blind me just from the glare. So that's been taken care of since then. But anyway, so I call them up, and they tell me, oh, well, we sent your paperwork back to your company like 3 or 4 days ago. So you should be good. So I waited until the next day. I still went in early, I think. And I go to HR to make sure, like, am I good? And they check in, and they're like, yeah, okay, well, we got all the paperwork back and forth. And I try to... So this pissed me off to no ends. I couldn't understand how they know what it's for. They know that they have someone who's night blind asking to please move me back an hour and a half so I don't have to drive in the dark anymore. So I don't die on the road. Like, and they get the clear after giving me the wrong information 2 or 3 times. And once they get to the last step, all they had to do was walk over. We were in different buildings, but they're like 50 feet apart. All they'd have to do is walk over to my building and tell me that, hey, you're good. You can come in at the time we specified. It's all cool. But they didn't see it as important enough, I guess, to let me know. I had to call the other company, the consult company, up myself just because I felt like it was taking a little bit too long. Turns out it was. Because to them, it didn't matter that some legally blind guy was, like, asking to let me come in later so I don't get hurt. It didn't occur to them that they should tell me as soon as possible. So those 3-4 extra days that I was driving, if anything had happened on those particular days, like that's when it happened, it would have been their fault. They wouldn't have been at fault. Like, nothing would have happened to them. But it would have been their fault. And they didn't give I asked them. I was angry. I was like, so it doesn't occur to y'all to, like, come over and tell me? Like, you already gave me the wrong information. I don't want you doing this to people. Because as much as it sucks to have it done to you, at least I know what I can do. And, like, I had enough confidence that, like, I can make this by. I can get by long enough until they get it done. I'll be okay. Not that I really knew that, but I felt like it. But if they had ever done this to anybody else, like, I would lose it. But I don't want this happening to anybody, and they just kept giving me excuses. Oh, well, that was the way we were told. Oh, it's not even our problem. It's this other part of the company that's supposed to deal with you about this. Like, they're the ones that are supposed to come and talk to you or call you or whatever. Like, you're 50 feet away and you are human resources. I gave up. I was so angry. I gave up and I left. And that's not the last time I've had problems with HR, with people in the buildings. I've been several times I've had problems with people getting at me for things like parking in the same places everyone else is parking, but I come in later, which I only do because I can't see. And them treating me like making me move my car or whatever it is, and not doing it to anybody else. They even happened like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Like, even though I belong to the same part of the company as all these other people in this part of the company parking lot or whatever, they go after me because, one, I'm quiet. I don't really argue that much. Even though I theoretically maybe I should, I don't know. But I'm so tired. I don't even feel like it. So, and then whenever this last altercation happened where someone was yelling at me, even though I parked the exact same way everybody else did, and no one else moved their cars after that. They were just like, everybody's got to move out here. It's a really stupid issue, but I was the only one. I gave it. I was like, okay, fine. I'll move down this long-ass way away wherever this dude was telling me to go. He was a line lead of another building. And I had to walk outside, like, it's a obviously they have a lot of cars because it's a large retail. So I had to walk way like way through the back, and I asked one of my line leads, like, hey, can I get my 10 minutes back for the extra time that I had? And he just mumbled and walked off instead of answering me, and basically was like, oh, they're saying that to everybody, and walked the off. Like, I wanted my time back. I lose time, but I've lost a of time on my paychecks. Guess what that does to my money? And on top of that, one last thing I forgot about the HR thing. HR made a point to tell me that I am not cleared to stay after the normal hours for my shift to make up any of the time that I lost. They made a point to tell me that, and then recently I found out about other people that are staying over, people that have normal hours and even more. Like, they come in an hour earlier and they're allowed to stay as long as they want after, just because they want the hours, which I don't care. But they went out of their way to tell me I couldn't stay over because they think I'm gonna kill myself whenever there's nobody else in the building. Like, this is ridiculous. This is the way they treat us. They don't try to figure out what we can do a whole lot. Especially between me, my brother, and my uncle. We're really smart people, and we can do a whole lot, but no one wants to get past that first step. They're just like, you're gonna be a pain to deal with. You're blind. So I got lucky. Like, mine's not nearly as bad. I just recently finally got, like, officially, like, legally blind. But my uncle and my brother, they've been dealing with that for years. So I'm already in the job. I've been there for a few years. When I finally broke down, I'm not driving in. It's at 5 o'clock anymore. So, like, I was kind of safe. even though I've been with over and over again after the fact, and finding it like, oh, you're colorblind, da, da, da. Not to mention like just normal people in the shop with me, which isn't a lot, but when someone hangs a bright blinking red light like a police light on the other side of the shop, and when you happen to notice it and you ask them like who put that up there, they're like, oh, and when you go and tell anybody, they don't give a they don't care at all. I bothered to tell a line lead that is technically part of another shift, but he kind of floats. One day, and he seems to mean well. I'm not trying to like super attack him, but this makes a difference. I came in and they were already having like a meeting in like tape, which is basically the only place I work anymore because it just makes sense for me to tape up cars since I come in later. Like, you don't want me to be painting or mixing colors for paint if everybody else there is an hour and a half or 2.5 hours earlier than me. Like, that doesn't make sense. So, that's fine. I'm cool with it. Whatever. But he asked me, like, so, what's wrong with your eyes? which I kind of appreciate how bold it was. Like, it was so just like, meh. Like, I kind of laughed. I think I did laugh. And I just told him. He was like, oh, well, I was just wondering because they said you had to come in later. I was like, oh, okay, well, I told him this. And it kind of snowballed into, I told him all these things, probably more things, because I think every time I think about this stuff, like, I lose pieces, and then I remember them later, which really pisses me off. But I should probably just write it all down, which they don't want me to do, I'm sure. But I need to just do it. Like, pull it out of my wallet every time. This is what they do to the blind people. So he tells me, well, man, you should be able to make up some of your hours. So, like, why don't you just stay over? And I told him about the HR thing. He's like, okay, well, none of this is right. He's like, so he said, okay, well, I think I can talk to one of the RMs, the regional managers. Like, they're the highest in the building. And like, I think I can talk to one of them. Maybe we can. They need to know. And I was like, okay, if you can talk to him and if he wants to talk to me like about the situation, I'm cool with that. But I will not go and start the conversation because they're going to talk to me for a couple minutes. They're going to act like, oh, well, that's not right, and then walk off because the other RMs have done that to me too. Like, I brought up some of these situations about HR, and they're just like, oh, well, yeah, that's not right. Well, maybe we'll mention it some. I've also put this in the company surveys, like, the anonymous surveys they give out every 6 months. I've done this multiple times in those too. They never address it. They never bring it up. So to me, that means you ignored me entirely. I put my name in them. Like, I've signed them with explicit, like, this is what happened. What are we going to do about it? Yeah. And they don't ever say anything. So anyway, this line lady means well. Maybe he got sidetracked. One of two things has happened. One, he did what he said he would. He went to this guy. Probably shouldn't have said his name, but it's only one name, so it's fine. And maybe he'll talk to me, and then, So either he's gone to him, and he didn't give a because he never came and talked to me. So either that happened, or this dude flat out forgot. Which I can almost forgive, but it's a big implication, man. Like, you can't tell a person who's dealing with all this stuff that, like, I'm gonna help you out and then forget. Like, it's not cool. But this has been, like, stressing me the out. Like, I've been stuck on this for days and days. Like, and I notice other things in the shop on top of these, like, who's getting who's getting treated which way and whatnot. Last week, we flat out had a meeting where one of our line leads told us that the skills we learn in the shop, like actually being able to work on cars and stuff, that barely matters. What matters is if they decide we're a good teammate, which they're the only ones that decide, and that means basically, well, if we like you, you'll get to move up. Like, which I've moved up as far as I can. I'm aware of that. They're never going to move me up ever again, which, I mean, I'm not going to spend time learning how to paint a car, which I actually did. I did put some time in getting in the paint booth and doing it. And I'm not bad. I'm not gonna tell you I'm great. Like, I didn't do it for that long, but I was fine. Like, I keep a steady hand, whatnot. But I'm not putting in a bunch of effort into something I'm not gonna be able to keep doing anyway. Especially when I've seen them treat other people that know everything like like they don't even move up other people who know 5 times more than me and have been there longer than me. They're not gonna, give me a boost. That's just out of the question. Okay. But between all these things that have happened to me, getting singled out, having lies told about me, would not coming to me for what I actually need, putting me in danger longer than they had to, all these things. And then when my uncle calls me and tells me that he finally got a job, because he's only on Social Security with 4 children he's paying for just by himself, and they barely give him anything. I have multiple people in my family that are on Social Security, and they don't get anything, like, at all, not to survive on. It's ridiculous. He was so happy. And he should. And I understand. Like, he's allowed to be happy for that. Like, it was cool. He was gonna get a job. It paid decent, especially for that little town he's in. And they tried to push him out the door just because not even because he couldn't do it, but because they didn't want to deal with it. What the kind of life is that? Like, I personally, my uncle's very outgoing, so this isn't him. Personally, I never feel like I belong anywhere. Whenever you're always worried about if you're gonna, like, hit something, bump into something, people are gonna laugh at you, or you're gonna be in somebody's way, you're gonna make things worse just by being there. That's just regular life. And then you go to work, and you can tell they don't want you there. If you need anything, they're not going to help you. They don't give a shit about you. If you give up, like, what are you supposed to keep doing? The only thing is to keep just dealing with it and losing any savor you have for life, and just accept that that's the way they're gonna treat you until you get in a situation where you're so angry you just freak the fuck out, and then they make you the problem, which is what they wanted, and then they can get rid of you. they can say you're the problem, you're problematic, we did this for you, we did that for you, even though you went out of your way to kind of fuck me over. You went out of your way to my uncle over. You went out of your way to fuck over my brother. Like, that's how all these places are. So, and it doesn't matter that, technically I'm on the DARS program, like, I'm technically protected or whatever, but it's hard to explain. Like, you don't feel protected at all. It doesn't matter. Like, the stress that it would take for me to react, and let's say I decided that all these things were worth suing these people for, which might be the only thing they understand. Let's say that. I still have to consider the stress of finding a lawyer, giving them all the information I have, hoping it's enough, and then by the end, which I don't know how long it's going to take and how much money I'm going to lose probably from losing work, because I doubt they're going to want me still working there if I'm doing that, on top of paying for those fees and such. Like, no one at the bottom is going to commit to that. Like, for real. We need socialized court systems, by the way, just like healthcare in America. But I digress. Anyway, this is not a fun podcast. Sorry. Another weird thing. When you tell people you're legally blind, they and I drive and everything, and they will go like, "Well, how can you see if you're blind?" I'm like, "No, I'm legally blind." It just means that there are situations that I am going to need accommodations. That's kind of it. My peripheral vision is not 100%. It's not like there's no simulator for this, which I really hate, but retinitis, it's not like it closes in and it's a perfect circle all the way down. It's like I have a 180-degree field. I can see from there to there. But there's spots in the middle that are not super sharp, and they'll continue to digress, you know? There's also being night blind, which is the first thing, usually with retinitis. If things that move too fast are sometimes hard to catch, like, there's several things that are a problem. So, anyway, I had to come on and rant because I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know what to do, like, emotionally or mentally or physically. At work, I don't know what I can do to fix what I think is wrong, because I refuse to go to HR. They're the ones that f*** me over so bad. I refuse to go to my line leads because I know if it's the one that told lies about me that I was colorblind and I'm not, then like who am I supposed to go to? The other line leads will protect that person, so they're not trustworthy. Like it pushes you into a corner. The other line lead that never actually went and talked to the guy that he told me he would. So yeah, I don't know, man. Like, I'm glad that my Uncle Michael at least told me today that like the HR people. I was super pissed because it's still terrible. They would tell him like, okay, you're fired, like, for not coming in, even though we're the ones that told you to leave. And then the only thing they would like give a correct reaction to was when he threatened them. Like, okay, well, how much you want to pay to settle out of court? And then they came back and they're like, oh yeah, wrong info. Last thing. So basically, I don't know what I'm going to do, but maybe talking about the shit will help. I doubt it, but who knows? I have a list of a few things. This is kind of random, but it has something to do with all this, I promise. If you or someone you know, I sound like one of those commercials about medicine where people die. If you or somebody you know has died, has a vision issue, retinitis pigmentosa, then these are a few things that I think maybe you should look into, because I guess, I don't know, I decided I'm going to start kind of trying to research preventative steps, just like you would for any other health problem, injury. So I'm just going to tell you guys what I found. Not a ton of stuff. This is just like an example. Maybe like look into it on your own time yourself, because I'm no doctor. But anyway, so I started looking into like what can we do about vision problems, retinitis in particular. But these are a few things that maybe you should look into. So there apparently is shock therapy for macular degeneration, which is usually for what older people experience, but it's the same with retinitis and some other eye diseases or situations, I suppose. It's not like you can sneeze on somebody and make them blind, but eye palming, which sounds really weird, but apparently it helps to do early in the day, and it can somewhat help with color vision, supposedly. So look into it. I don't know the exact process. Like I've tried to do it. I need to get like a full step-by-step program for that, but look into it. Vitamins, things you should be taking. Usually they will tell you take vitamin A and E. That's cool. You can do that. I just ordered a vision vitamin that is called Bulletproof Armor. Google that and you'll be able to find it. But it has this particular bilberry extract, which is apparently good for night vision. Like during, I think it was World War II, the pilots that would notice they would drink bilberry tea would actually have a heightened night vision. So it seems to work well for that. Also lutein and beta carotene, and so bulletproof vision armor. Yeah, I hope I'm saying that right. They have several of those ingredients, so look into that. Red light therapy, which I'm trying to find out exactly what like frequency and how much time spent with that. Red light therapy, look into it. This is a book apparently, which is composed of exercises. I believe it has a big thing on palming here too, called Yoga for Your Eyes, which is what it sounds like. It's eye exercises basically. There's not a lot talked about as far as preventative things for vision. It's always like, look, you're at this stage, this is what we're going to do when you get to this stage. But depending on how far along you are, maybe try it. Look, I will do anything just to sort of get in front of it. Optogenics gene therapy. It's gene therapy plus light therapy. Optogenics seems to be like an introduction of, it's not exactly like just correct gene therapy where they give you the correct gene you're missing. Like with RP, it's the rods that are deteriorating in your eyes and you don't reproduce them correctly, which is very confusing. But well, like I said, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to try to explain it. I understand it, but actually getting the words out, I'll probably screw it up worse than anything. But again, optogenetics, just research some of these things. See if you can do anything about it. Maybe it's a placebo and it might make you feel better. Maybe just doing something with your eyes, even as you're losing your vision, almost like exercising, will help strengthen them. Not gonna say you're ever gonna improve it, because I've been told multiple times you don't ever improve your eyesight. At least with retinitis. There are other things that I'm sure you can, but not with retinitis. So yeah, this was like the whole video. A while back, I put out a video about whenever I was getting HR to let me come in earlier, and my whole position was get ahead of whatever your situation is. Like, don't wait until it's bad. Like I kind of did that. Like, wasn't great. But it turns out it's bullshit. Like, it's not bullshit. Like, do get ahead of what you can, but it doesn't stop there. Like, it's up, but you have to always be ready. Always pay attention to what's going on around you with your work. And I don't mean like pay attention to your work, like what you're doing. I mean pay attention to what people are doing around you, what they're doing to you, either directly or indirectly, what they think. Like if you got to call them out on being wrong, do it. Do whatever you can. And even then, it's not always going to help. But you do have to sort of have a position of, like, I'm not going to let you do this to me anymore. Like, there is a certain amount of pushback that management in business really doesn't like. But you have to have enough for them to know it's going to be too difficult to just toss you out, like, or to roll over you. They may not toss you out, but they may just kind of try to roll over everything you say so they can keep doing whatever they're doing. That would not surprise me. That's pretty accurate, actually. But you have to always have that thought, like, I have kept track of all these things and I know exactly what to tell you. Like, I know I can tell you that you did this, doesn't match up with this. Also, pay attention to actions versus what they say. That's a huge deal, because if you can call them on things that they are doing versus things that they say, then you have some sort of ammunition against them, especially when it doesn't make any sense what they're doing versus saying versus whatever. Which I need to fight back more often, but I'm so fucking tired. Like, mentally, emotionally, I'm done. So until I absolutely have to, what am I gonna do, right? So I'm kind of wishy-washy. I'm like, them, tell them to off. But also, like, I'm too tired to do it. So I don't know. This is rambly, and I'm sorry for that. Share this. If you share it to anybody in particular, tell them to just kind of deal with my rambliness. I have a point. I have several points. I want people to know that this is how people like me, people with other physical issues, mental issues, are treated like this too. It's not just blind people, although that's what I'm closest to. Don't be these people that I'm talking about. I guess that's what I hope. If you watch this, don't be those people that I'm talking about. And that includes, this is going to be specific, if once I put this up for everybody to see, which I'm sure will be very entertaining, if you know me and you like this video or react to my video and you don't share it, you don't care. And maybe you didn't even make it this far. I'm serious. I want more people to see this. Nobody saw that video that I did about getting ahead of your situation, which I hate now. Like, other than the fact that I never talked on camera before, I'm kind of used to it now. But that whole message feels like it was incomplete entirely now, because it didn't help as much as it should have. So share this. You can like it all you want or dislike it or whatever. More views, I don't care. But I hope somebody hears this. I don't know if they need to hear it because they're dealing with it. I don't know if they need to hear it because they need to not be the people that I'm talking about. I don't know if they need to hear it because they can actually do something. Maybe a random ass high up in the state representative will hear about this and do something. I don't know. But things need to change. Blind people stuff needs to change. This is it. Thanks for watching. Not the usual fun movie pain or pleasure with me and Melanie. Sorry about that. I know it's more entertaining with two of us but right now I'm being super serious, I guess. But yeah, maybe I'll do this again. Maybe I'll get my brother on. He's dealt with it longer than I have, and he probably has just as many stories. Yeah, share it.